We are here live on the scene at the Digital Stratosphere Conference in 2025 here in Denver, Colorado. We're going to take you behind the scenes, speak to some of the speakers, and dive into what you missed at this conference. That's what you're going to see here on episode 237 of Transformation Ground Control.
Welcome to Transformation Ground Control. Ground Control. The podcast that covers everything related to digital transformation. This podcast features technology agnostic and international discussions related to digital strategy, software selection, implementation, change management, business process optimization, and everything else you need to know to make your digital transformation project successful. Whether you're embarking on an ERP implementation, supply chain transformation, or any other business or digital transformation, this podcast is for you. Now, here's your host, Eric Kimberling.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ground control to Major Tom.
Hello, welcome to Transformation Ground Control, episode number 237. This is a very special episode of Ground Control. This is a podcast that's tech agnostic, covers everything related to strategy, people, and process as it relates to digital transformations. And here, it's a special episode because we're here just outside the Digital Stratosphere Conference here in Denver, Colorado, here in late August. And really excited for this session and for this overall conference. And so far, it's been a great event. And what I want to do in today's podcast is really take you behind the scenes to really speak to some of the speakers and see what you're missing out on, because it's a really good event and there's a lot of great learnings here so far. But before we do that, I thought it'd be fun to talk about what the conference is and what it's all about. It's a tech agnostic conference. We have several different sponsors from all different walks of life, all different types of technology companies. The sponsors of this event include Infor, Priority Software, Infotech Research Group, Technology Evaluation Centers, Taft Law, Epicor, Oracle NetSuite, and Octa. And of course, last but not least, Third Stage Consulting Group, the company I work for. And by the way, I'm the CEO of that company, and we're a tech agnostic independent consulting firm that helps clients through their digital transformation journeys. And this event, we started this event back in 2018, and we did it because we wanted to provide a tech agnostic way to impart on the overall digital transformation community what it takes to be successful, not just the sugar-coated Kool-Aid drinking approach that most software vendors are going to have in their user group conferences, but more of a broad discussion of just looking at the good, the bad, the ugly of transformations. And this is the only conference I know of where you can get the real scoop, the real inside scoop of what it's like to be successful. But before I jump into some of the things that we've covered so far in this conference and what's left to cover in this conference, and before we go behind the scenes and talk to some of the speakers that have recently just presented here this week at the conference, I want to just show you a clip of what some of the attendees look like, what the event felt like, and we'll do our best here to show you a little collage of what you're missing out on. So that's a little bit of what you can expect to see and what you might have missed out on here at Digital Stratosphere if you're not here this week. Really fun time. We had, so far, we've had 100 people join here in person, live in person. We have another 50 people that join virtually from throughout the world. And what's really interesting is even though we offered this virtual pass thinking that people from outside the United States primarily are going to be the ones to join virtually, we actually had people join in person from all over the world. We had someone join from Poland. I'm actually going to talk to him later in the show today. His name is Stan. He's with a Microsoft partner. based in Warsaw in Poland, and we'll talk to him. But he joined us from Poland. We had a couple people join us from Israel, Colombia, Brazil, the UK, Switzerland, just people from all over the world. And it was really cool to see this group come together. And we started this conference in 2018. And when we first did it, we just had about 40 people, I think it was. Really good conference, but very small, a lot smaller than it is now. And we did it because we wanted to have that tech agnostic view of the world, as I mentioned before. And we wanted to bring together some of the like-minded thought leaders in the industry, people that weren't going to sugarcoat things and were going to be honest and transparent about what these projects are like. And even though we have software vendors sponsoring the event, there's something about having multiple software vendors at the same event that sort of neutralizes all the Kool-Aid drinking, if you will. So it's really interesting because even the software vendors who are there to presumably promote their product and to try and get awareness of people at the conference, it's really interesting to see how they are being realistic about what it takes to be successful. It's almost like the shackles of their normal marketing message that you would see at a vendor conference. Those shackles sort of come off a little bit, and you start to see the human side of these different vendors, especially when you get them all in the same conference in the same room. So it's really interesting. And one of the attendees that joined from the United States, I was running late to a dinner on the first night. We have a welcome reception. Last night we had a welcome reception, and I was late to it for a conference dinner with some other people at the event, and I was about 45 minutes late. So I was in a rush to get out of the happy hour to go to this dinner. And someone stopped me and said, just for a minute, I just want to talk to you real quick. And they introduced themselves, and we got to know each other real quickly. And he mentioned to me that this isn't a conference. And I said, what do you mean? What do you mean it's not a conference? And he said, well, I don't view this as a conference. I view it as something bigger. It's a movement. And I thought that was super interesting. And that's really how it felt. The day one networking last night, and then even today, especially today, as we get into some of the speakers and people exchanging ideas, it's just really exciting to see the energy and the buzz. This is our 7th year, I think it is, in a row of doing this minus COVID. 7 years of doing Digital Stratosphere, and this has by far been the best one so far, not only in terms of the logistics and the coordination, but also the speakers and just the attendees and the way it's all come together. It does feel like a movement, and I think the person is very much right about that. So, one of the other things too that's interesting is not only is it a movement, and not only is it a conference in a traditional sense where you can go learn from speakers, but there's also a peer learning aspect of this, peer networking. And it's super powerful to see a bunch of CIOs and IT directors and project managers and software vendors, other independent consultants, whether they were third stage or even just solopreneurs that have their own consulting firms. You get all those people in the same room, sort of commiserating over their battle wounds and comparing notes and exchanging experiences. And it has a way of making people feel better. It's really interesting to see how people just feel less crazy. They feel like, I'm not in this alone. The stuff we're going through, the challenges we're facing are not that unusual, unfortunately. Unfortunately, they're not unusual, but I guess that's good news because you have other people that have been through the same thing. And so that's been super powerful to see as well, is just that peer networking, the peer learning. I had a few different VIP sessions. So we have 2 passes here today. And so far I've had a couple of different VIP sessions where if you paid for the VIP pass, which is a smaller group of people, there's been some small group Q&A and lunches with myself and other people from the third stage team. And it's been really interesting to have these open dialogues, just to be candid about, hey, here are the things we're facing and struggling with. Here are the challenges we have. What have you all experienced? Not just us as consultants, but the other people in the room, the other attendees that maybe aren't quote unquote experts per se, but they're people that have been through something very similar that a lot of these organizations have been through. So that's been really interesting to watch as well. And some of the sessions that I'm most excited about and have been most excited about leading up to Stratosphere this week, I'm really excited to see Jan Baan. He's sort of the godfather, pioneer of the ERP software industry. He actually had a session, and I'm going to go talk to him here in a minute. He had a session talking about microservices and where the ERP enterprise tech space is headed. And it's super interesting because he sees the ERP and enterprise tech space going a completely different direction than the ERP tech space as we know it today that he helped create. So he's a big believer in that whole idea of creative destruction and sort of not getting too caught up in the pride of having founded this whole ERP category. he's moved on. He's looking to the future of what's next after ERP, and it's really interesting to hear him talk. And we're going to chat with him about his keynote session, which was very well received. We're also, another session I always enjoy is Marcus Harris. He's with Taft Law. He was on the stage today talking about AI and negotiations and how to negotiate AI contracts, and also some of the pitfalls, some of the intellectual property and other legal nuances of AI that a lot of people don't think about. So that's super interesting. With all the the buzz and hype around AI, it's also important to look at the dark side and make sure you're covering yourself as it relates to how you protect your data, how you ensure that you don't have data cybersecurity breaches as a result of AI, and how you make sure that you actually negotiate deals that aren't going to cost you a ton of money in the long term. We also had a couple people from the Infor team talking about AI and use cases of where AI is actually being used in ERP and Infor in particular. And it's really interesting because their session wasn't super focused on Infor. It was focused on ERP in general and how AI can integrate and work well with ERP. So that's a really good session too, even though it was, like I said, they're both from Infor. This is an example of how they're not just here to push the Infor Kool-Aid on people or any other vendor for that matter. They're here just to talk about what some of the general trends are. One of the other highlights that we're actually going to play for you here in this episode, here in a moment, we'll play you later in the show. We'll play you a excerpt from the conference where I actually facilitated a panel discussion with 5 different software vendors up on the stage. Really interesting to do. I love doing those sessions because it's so rare that you get a bunch of vendors together talking about sort of the commonalities of what's happening in the industry, where they see the industry going, but also how they view themselves differently amongst each other. So in a real friendly, constructive kind of way to help people at the conference understand that these technologies out there are a lot different. There's a lot of commonalities and trends that we should all be aware of, but there's no one size fits all. Every vendor has a different strategy, different strengths and weaknesses, and hearing them talk about the comparison and contrast between the different solutions is super interesting. And even if you're not interested in those 5 solutions in particular, those 5 vendors that are on the panel discussion, it's a good way for you to think about how you can be differentiating between different vendors that you might consider for your digital transformation. So be sure to stick around to the end of the episode because we'll play you that full panel discussion. So the whole idea here is we're going to show you behind the scenes. We're going to jump down inside here in a moment to the conference floor and sort of get in the thick of it. I'm out here in the quiet now to get the podcast started, but then we're going to jump inside where it's a little bit more chaotic. So we'll get there in a second. But a couple of the things, my keynote session, which I'll publish at some point here in the near future on YouTube, my keynote session was called Welcome to the Jungle. And that's also the name of my new book coming out in September of 2025. And the premise of this book is really looking at the risks of digital transformation and providing a roadmap to mitigate those risks. First of all, identify the risks and mitigate them. And so that was really the whole intent of that book and that keynote presentation today, is to share with the audience, like, hey, these digital transformations are not slam dunk easy wins. And I think we all know that, but they're not foregone. It's not a foregone conclusion that they're going to fail either. So many of these projects fail with failure rates of 70 to 80% or more that a lot of people think that, well, we're just sort of destined to fail. And if we can just come out unscathed or relatively unscathed, or, not have the transformation bring our operations to its knees, then we would consider that a success. And it doesn't need to be that way. We don't need to set the bar that low. The key is recognizing and understanding what those risks are so that we can be realistic about it and how we're going to mitigate those. So that's an interesting part of this as well. So Welcome to the Jungle is my keynote session. Really enjoyed doing that. Got a lot of good feedback from that. And some of the big takeaways that I have from this conference so far that I just want to share here with the audience is, first of all, listening to some of these speakers, I try to pick up on some of the themes. What are the themes or the recurring patterns that you hear when you have all these different diverse speakers that are coming at it from a technology angle or a program management angle, a supply chain angle, change management angle, process improvement angle, strategy. There's all these different lenses that you can look through digital or look at digital transformations through. And some of the common patterns that we see are, first of all, the importance of strategy and planning, and just having a clear, concise understanding of what it is we want to accomplish with this project and how this project ties into our overall overarching corporate organizational goals and objectives. that's one of the big things that we just keep hearing time and time again is making sure that you recognize that one size does not fit all. No one software solution or even type of software or type of technology like AI, for example, it's not going to be a silver bullet that's just going to solve all of your problems. You still have to do the heavy lifting behind organizational alignment with your overall strategy, with your people, your process, obviously all the technologies you have in place, all that good stuff. The other thing that has been a common pattern here is that the technology, it's not that the technology doesn't matter, but it matters a lot less than everything else. You know, when you look at organizational change and overall strategy, defining your future state business processes, the project management and governance behind managing your system integrators, all those things are so critical to ensuring that you're successful. And it's not about the technology. You can plug in or out any sort of technology, and depending on how you run that project, you're going to either succeed or fail, not based on the technology, but probably based on all the other stuff that you manage. And the tricky part of this, though, and the problem in our industry is that the software vendors and the buyers of software solutions tend to think that if I buy the software, I focus on deploying the software, and if I do that really well, then I'm going to be successful. And the problem is that's not true. You could do that really well and still have a massive failure on your hands, not because you didn't implement the technology well, but because you didn't address all the other non-technical stuff. So the project, the program governance, the change management, the process improvement, having the alignment at the top all the way down to middle level management of what this project means and how you're going to make decisions and how the decisions you make are going to support your overall strategy. Those things get out of sync and out of whack. It doesn't matter how well you deploy technology. You're not going to be able to use it in a way that benefits your organization. And it's more likely that it's going to cause disruptions to your operations at least in the short term, if not the long term. There's some companies that take months or years to recover from some of these failures. And again, it doesn't need to be that way. There's no secret luck-driven recipe here. It's pretty straightforward when you dig into it. And that's some of the common themes we're hearing here with the different speakers here at the conference. Change management has been another common theme. We have Emma Roloff who spoke talking about a people first approach to digital transformation. We've heard time and time again, change management and the people side of change come up even in the more technical presentations or the presentations that weren't exclusively focused on the people side of change. So that's been interesting. And then finally, the realistic expectations, ensuring that the team, the overall plan, the budget, the resources, all that stuff, you want to make sure it's realistic and that you have a realistic view of what the project's going to entail. Because if you don't have realistic expectations, you're not gonna know what to expect in terms of risk. You're going to think things are going to be easier than they actually are, and you're going to be blind to the risks that are inherent in these projects. And also, it's going to force you into bad decisions if you have unrealistic expectations. When a software vendor comes to you and says they can implement their solution in, say, 18 months, if that 18-month timeline is realistic for a technical deployment, but not realistic for you to navigate all the change that goes along with that in your organization, then you're set up to fail right there, because now you're expecting an 18-month horizon. Your entire internal team and leadership is expecting 18 months, but it was never going to be 18 months. It was always going to be 24, 30, 36 months, whatever it is. And so what happens then is once you realize halfway through the project that, wow, we are not ever going to get this done in 18 months, then you start either pushing things out and people start getting really frustrated, and it decreases morale on the project and internally within the organization, and or you end up cutting things and making really bad decisions, like cutting a few iterations of training or testing, or cutting out change management, or the things that look like on paper you might save time and money, but actually that ends up making it even worse by trying to force fit a project into a box that was never realistic in terms of time, budget, resources, etc. So the realistic expectations is another common theme we're hearing right now. That's something I cover a lot in my book, Welcome to the Jungle. I covered it in the keynote here today as well. It's worth noting too, as well, the theme here this week at Digital Stratosphere is AI Mission Possible. So there is a lot of talk about AI, as you can imagine, but again, it's one of those things where it's not really about AI, even though that's the theme of the conference. It's about everything but AI. It's all the non-technical stuff. AI is interesting. There's a lot that we can learn about it. There's a lot of ways we can potentially embed it in our organizations, but at the end of the day, it's really not about AI. It's about all the other stuff, the non-technical, the people, the operational, the organizational, and strategy sides of things. So, got a lot to cover here today. So, we're going to jump behind the scenes. We're going to talk to a few different speakers that have given their keynotes, and I'm going to ask them to just give a summary, a quick 8 to 10 minute summary of what they presented in their keynotes over the course of an hour or so, and really try to summarize it down for you and give you a flavor for what has been covered here in the conference so far. And as I mentioned, later in the show, we'll have the entire panel discussion, the vendor panel discussion that we'll get through as well. So we're going to get to all that here in just a moment. But first, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll bring on our first guest, who's actually going to be our guest from Infor Software, talking about some of the AI keynote content that they talked about. We'll also have Jan Baan, Marcus Harris, Stan from Poland will be here as well. And then again, we'll get the vendor panel later as well. So got a lot to cover here today. We're live on the scene at Digital Stratosphere, just inside, close to where I'm at right here. We'll be right back with more Transformation Ground Control.
I don't mind letting you down easy, but just give it time. If it don't hurt now, but just wait a while.
I want to share a little bit of information about Third Stage Consulting and who we are. Third Stage Consulting Group is an independent, technology agnostic provider of consulting services to help clients through their digital transformations. We help with digital strategy and software selection, as well as implementation planning. And during implementation, we provide services related to program management, organizational change, business process improvement, as well as enterprise architecture. These are just some of the services we provide. We have offices in North America as well as Europe and Asia Pacific. So if you'd like to learn more, I encourage you to check out our resource center, which includes a number of resources that will help you through your digital transformation, and you can access that for free using the QR code here or the links below. You can also reach out to me directly if you'd like to discuss your digital transformation and brainstorm ideas on how to improve where you're headed on your journey.
The last thing you want to have happen is for your digital transformation to end up in court. I've been doing this for 20 years and I have seen everything. My name is Marcus Harris. I'm a software and technology attorney focusing my practice on drafting and negotiating software-related contracts and litigating software disputes across the country. Feel free to reach out to us at taftlaw.com. We'd love to talk to you about the litigation process and what you can expect.
Welcome back to Transformation Ground Control, episode number 237, the special on the scene edition here at Digital Stratosphere 2025 in Denver, Colorado. We're just outside the conference. We're going to jump inside the conference area right now and go talk to some of the guests, some of the speakers that have given some presentations here today on day 2 of the conference. We're going to start off by talking to the team from Infor, the 2 presenters from Infor. We'll talk to Jan Baan and get a lowdown or summary of his presentation, his keynote. Talk to Marcus Harris, and we'll talk to others as well. So let's go ahead inside the conference center and start talking to some of the guests here. I'm here with Tanya and Tiffany from Infor, and you guys just had a presentation early this morning. You actually kicked off the whole conference by talking about AI within the Infor ecosystem and really giving really specific examples of how you guys as a vendor are incorporating AI into your offering. Can you tell us just a little bit about, if you were to summarize this presentation, it was about an hour long, but if you were to summarize it in just a few minutes, how would you summarize it? Why don't we start with you?
Absolutely. If I had to summarize it, and I'm the director of product management for data and analytics. And so data is super a big passion of mine and something that I am always talking about. And I think if we could sum it up, is that data is really important and that you need to make sure that your organization has your data, has good, clean data so that you can then start to build those AI capabilities on top of it. And so data is obviously that first building block that is going to then be able to propel you to be able to do all of those additional capabilities through things like agentic AI, optimization, and building out more capabilities for your organization, saving you time, saving you money, and also helping you get that faster time to value as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So how about you, Tanya? What was your favorite takeaway or your biggest aha moment when you're putting together this presentation, when you were giving it here earlier today? What's the biggest takeaway that the audience should take from that?
And I'm going to be biased because unlike Tiffany, I believe in the importance of data, but I'm all about AI and technology. And so what I really think is important is when we think about AI, let's not think just about ChatGPT or the things that are kind of more surfacing. There's so many different techniques. There is machine learning, there is optimization, there is graph technology, simulations. Gen AI is just one of those techniques. And so to me, is the main takeaway out of it composite AI. It's really a combination of all of those techniques that really gonna help you drive value. You use the right tool for the right problem. And with agentic pieces coming in, it can communicate to each one and single one of them, which it excels and kind of bring those things together. So that's what I would say. But one thing that is also important to remember as a takeaway, the business problem. Like you can't do things just thinking, oh, it's AI implementation, AI is going to solve it for me. No, you need to come, it's just like any other project. You need to have a real business problem that you're trying to solve.
Yeah, and not just doing AI for AI's sake. You're doing it because you're trying to solve a specific problem. And one thing, Tanya, you were also on a panel discussion, a vendor panel discussion, where we had you and a few other vendors that are involved with this event. And one of the things I asked you about was Infor's specific strategy around not just AI, but also sort of this continuum of single one size fits all ERP system versus totally composable microservice, best of breed, whatever you want to call it. Where does Infor fit in that whole continuum, and how do you see it evolving over time?
Yeah, and so we are industry ERP company. We have so many different cloud suites, each one specialized in each individual domain in the industry space. And so on top of it, we have an additional application that goes side by side, hand in hand. And so what we had to do is we have to build our cloud platform technology that will communicate across so that you have a unified experience as a user of Infor as you log in. You don't want to go into different screens of the applications. You log in into one central place and you see all of those pieces coming together. You see those pieces based on your role in your workspaces that leverage on your cloud suites and your ERPs, that leverage on your analytics, that put in front of the data, that have your process mining, all of those insights that are right there. And so we strongly believe in thinking of a role-based and how it's kind of solving their problems day to day, enabled by our cloud platform. That's how we think about it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now with AI, coming back to AI again, and sort of coming full circle on this, Tiffany, you in the presentation, you in particular, I believe is you. I know you both covered this, but I remember you going through a few examples of how specific use cases of how your customers are either already using AI and/or specific use cases that you've built into. Not you personally, but you as a vendor have built into your product. Can you give us a couple examples for people that don't really know, like how might I use AI? How are you seeing? What are a couple examples that you might help?
Yeah, absolutely. So, with our new Velocity suite, we have a lot of additional capabilities that go beyond just AI. So, when you think about some of the use cases and the problems that our customers are trying to solve, it's not just an AI problem, it's a technology problem that they need to solve for, technology that they need to use to solve for their problem. And so, one of my favorite stories that I talked about today was Miller Industries. And essentially, they were bringing in all of these emails that had their orders that were coming in, and they were having to manually enter those into their ERP application. And so utilizing our Velocity suite and two of the key products that are part of it, process automation and then also Gen AI on top of that, they were actually able to completely automate that process, which not only helped in terms of getting these orders done faster, it also reduced errors, but they were also able to implement that in less than 60 days. So when you think about these AI projects or these technology projects, they don't have to be huge 2-year projects where you're taking a lot of time to see that time to value. It's something that you can get quick wins on in these basic processes, and then ultimately bringing value to your organization. And they've actually saved over 3,000 hours per year just by automating this one small process that they have in their organization.
That's fascinating. It's really cool to hear the exact, specific examples. I think that's where a lot of people struggle. Is you hear all this hype around AI, but like, well, how are people actually using it? How are you actually building it into your product? And so to hear those examples was super helpful. Tanya, one other thing that we talked about on the panel was around just what it takes to be successful in an implementation, and you had some really good thoughts around that. What are a couple of the takeaways as far as what you've seen to be the most critical to successful ERP implementations?
Absolutely. So I think it takes a village to do a successful implementation. And so this is where people historically think about ERPs working with the IT team and having those big projects. But the reality of the things, IT teams are serving the business needs. And so this is where the business stakeholders need to come and closer together and have this handshake in between IT professionals and work on this implementation. work through the data, work through the business process. What are the things where I have all of my fragmented data in different pieces? How do we bring it all together to solve for this challenge, to solve for this problem? And the other thing, like Tiffany is saying, you don't need to think about years worth of project. As you start your implementation, think about all those composable different pieces where as long as you got the data, you could start thinking about those quick wins and business sees a real value. You're talking about the Miller Industries. We also were talking about Andrews. They have almost 9,000 worth of annual hours saved through the work that they used to do in the past manually, doing all of those VLOOKUPs across 750,000 SKUs. Now it just takes place instantly. They upload this request for quote, 500 different items, and they get the results instantly. And so to us, think about it working holistically, working as a team, driving your process, be in the front seat so that you could also take the rest of your organizations along this journey.
Yeah, that's super good advice. What closing advice would you, if you were up in front of the stage right now and it's the end of the conference and you had to give one piece of advice to people that are ready to go back to the office and get to work on their ERP or digital transformation, what would that be, Tiffany?
I would say keep it simple, right? You don't have to have anything that's overly complex. You don't have to go searching. If you just start talking to your end users in your organization, you're going to find some very simple pain points that you're going to be able to layer these two different types of technology, including AI, to help make their lives a lot easier and ultimately give them the opportunity to do, more productive things for your organization.
I'm here with the legendary Jan Baan, the founder of Baan Software, and now more recently, the founder of Rappit. And Jan, you just gave a really good presentation about microservices and AI and what it means to ERP systems longer term. And you're someone, just to back up, you're someone that helped create the whole the whole category of ERP software. You founded Baan Software back in the 70s. It was a prominent player for a long time. The source code is still used by Infor, who acquired Baan. So you have had a huge influence and a huge fingerprint on the ERP software space, yet you have a very different opinion of where the ERP software space is headed now than you might have had 10, 20, 30 years ago. So tell us about microservices, AI, and how you see the world of ERP evolving based on what you presented here today.
Important is first to begin, ERP was built in first wave of, say, Unix and transactional systems in a century ago. Then you see technology waves are changing, and the problem is most people are not changing with the technology waves. And it's hard, disruptive, it's a little complicated. And we did it between. Then we moved to business processes, bring everything together. It was the infancy of the internet. And you saw a lot of things. But then later you see still the real professional elements of collaboration of the internet, big data and everything. And then the microservice concept came. And even these big companies like Google, etc., they provided all these tools. And this is for the third time we could adapt it, where still the logic is more or less the same. And you go more downstream, and then you say, okay, why we should not rebuild an ERP system, what you even can discuss, but let it stay there. You see now for the first time you have this data, and the data moved in 3 databases. From an SQL database in ERP to BigQuery with a big data lake to semantic database, and gives you now the element of all the data. And now that brings you element in microservices. There are small components, could be developed by owners who understand it, and it can be synchronized. And it's going very fast, cheap. Errors can be detected and all the stuff. The technology is very far, 10 times faster than in the traditional ones. And now you see the benefit in AI, because especially agentic AI is totally adopted in this technology. And it makes it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
You do it more the same what you did before.
Right.
Yeah.
And what about software vendors who might say, okay, that's great, microservices, AI, that's all great stuff, but in order to really take advantage of AI, you need a brand new ERP system. You need to move to the cloud. You need to upgrade to the latest and greatest ERP technology. How does ERP fit into this whole thing?
Nonsense to have a new ERP system. Like you can have a new car. Maybe you have 2 engines in the car, and in software technology enough, you decouple it. And over time, you have the same function from the engine is maybe good enough in a new car, where you have a new dashboard, like a Tesla, etc. Maybe the dashboard and autopilot can change every day. The chassis is still the same. And even see the electronics are maybe also still the same. You should understand that the most mistakes what people are making, they have the idea new technology wave means new everything. No, you're always in 3 technology waves. And that is what we see now in the old wave of transactional system. It's still good enough if you can decouple it. Then we move more in business processes, optimizing it, and now we go in this real modern stuff therein. And that's only something where it makes 10 times more. The autopilot is doing so much more for this car. And that brings so much more benefit.
Yeah, yeah, that's great stuff. So what do you think happens to the big ERP software vendors? How do you think that will they still be relevant in the world of AI and microservices going forward? Do you think it's going to get more fragmented with more startups? Like your company's not a startup, but it's very well established, but it's not as big as a Oracle or an SAP. So a company like Rappit, do you think the future is with companies like that can provide more smaller solutions, or how do you see it?
We even talk a little over what you see the BlackBerry, and they never expected to lose. But they have some elements they had it hard coded board to do this type of stuff. Now, I should not invest in SAP when I was even an investor. I'm really afraid to see from even two elements, they can go easy down. You've seen it even with BlackBerry. They can go very simple down, but they even go down with the big system integrators together. They all can sync very soon. And why should they do it? And their attitude is not used over all these elements. They're coming still from the mainframe, protecting elements, not also for this real, I should say. They even do not know the vendor. The system integrators know them a little more, and it's real dangerous therein. And I'm afraid, and the opposite, you see, this new technology can grow fast, but not so many people understand the starting point of ERP. And that's, I think, what you do in this conference, the most important thing. Don't ignore ERP. Don't blame ERP still, because it's still an important element, but don't believe that it's the beginning and the end of all of it. It's just the starting point for the data, but this data can be propelled tremendous more. We have to say, with ERP, we took the rough diamonds out of the ground. But now we can make them very special and sell them for 100 times more the price than of the rough diamond. That means the ERP-driven microservices are unique, and not so many people in microservices are ERP-driven. And I think that could be a crucial part and a real winning element. If those, and therefore we need the oldies, therefore we say here, why can we not work more together? But as people who understand ERP, it's easier to educate people who understand ERP to lead them in microservice than even have smart people who can build microservice to learn them ERP.
Right. Yeah. So it's almost like we're trying to not force ERP software to be something that it's not. It's not meant to be everything to everyone. And you had a good analogy with or a metaphor with the castle, rivers, motorboats. I thought that was a really interesting visual metaphor or analogy for what the enterprise tech space is starting to emerge. Can you describe that metaphor?
No, I was thinking this castle, and we see a castle is maybe by a mountain where even coming clean water, and the castle is always protecting from outside, and extremely stable. But then you cannot go outside. And now we see if the castle is connected to a river, and then there's the data stream, then the SQL data stream can be a semantic data stream. And then I was thinking a little, okay, there's a difference between even what we see, microservice and AI-driven elements, even decouple that. And I was thinking, take the houses, small houses instead of a castle, as components who can be united together, easy, as the microservice, and take then the AI stuff as boats to do that together. Now, the good stuff is these people making good money, and over time, they may be living in the castle. They make a museum of the castle. Why should we not make, over time, a museum? This is how we did the old way ERP.
Right.
Because the castle has still value for entertainment, maybe over time, but it's not no longer the be-all and end-all. But today is still an important beginning element. You cannot ignore it. And therefore, I'm so happy with my experience in ERP that gives Rappit, in my opinion, a new dimension.
Right. No, it's great. I think it's really cool what you guys are doing, what you personally are doing in the space, but also your company and in the way you're providing an alternative to companies. They don't have to go with the big monolithic single ERP providers like we did 20 or 30 years ago.
The big change is over. You can sunset it. Why should you not take ECC, take it together, sunset it every day a little? Instead of these big bangs, where you lose a lot of money, it's good enough. And all this customization is even then good. You have not overnight to change all the customization. Do it step by step. And even in a lot of elements, with reverse engineering, you take the same functionality, old, but good enough, in new technology. And then you oversee new technology elements that you, again, can update. because now the old technology is then only adopted in the new way, but it could be much improved over time, and it's also every day a little
Right.
ongoing improvement.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. So I have an idea. You came all the way from Netherlands to be here, and I really appreciate that. I know the audience here loved having you here and love learning from you. I always learn so much from you every time. But I'm wondering if maybe I should go to Netherlands next time and we do a Stratosphere in the Netherlands.
Would be perfect.
I think
Yeah,
I want to know what the audience thinks, though. I want to know what they
For
think.
me,
Yeah.
okay. And I have a place for it.
Yes,
we can
he-
do it on the castle.
Yes.
We can take the Vandenberg for that.
He actually
Vandenberg
owns a castle called Vandenberg Castle. So
Yeah.
I've been privileged enough to go to it. It's a perfect venue for an event like Stratosphere. We've got some brains here. We've got a venue.
Yeah, yeah.
All we need is a few more
Yeah,
people.
yep. And
All
then
right.
we even can bring it more European also, and combine that all.
Yeah, get some of the thought leaders in Europe to be part of it. Cool.
I met her in a club down in Old Soho, where you drink champagne and it tastes like Coca-Cola.
I'm excited to announce the release of our 2025 Digital Transformation Report. It's available now on the Third Stage Consulting website, www.thirdstage-consulting.com. This report gives you an unbiased, technology-agnostic insight to help you optimize your organization's projects for success. Get your copy today using the QR code in front of me or on our website.
Are you looking for ways to promote your product or service to enterprise technology decision makers and influencers throughout the world, like the ones who listen to this podcast? Major Tom Productions creates media, events, and influencer marketing for B2B technology providers. Our productions are exciting, educational, disruptive, and effective. Most importantly, they create results. Our content is unlike any other in this industry, engaging, influential, and trusted by technology buyers and influencers throughout the world. Each month, our productions reach hundreds of thousands of targeted buyers and decision makers who trust and engage with our honest and tech-agnostic content. With long-tail viral results and engagement with our content, Major Tom Productions provides a way to reach your target market and create awareness, calls to action, and a connection with potential customers. So collaborate with us today. Learn how we can feature your product or service on podcasts such as Transformation Ground Control, Journey to S4HANA, and Journey to Dynamics 365. We can also feature your brand on our YouTube channel called Digital Transformation with Eric Kimberling, which boasts over 100,000 subscribers and over 2 million video views per year. You can also participate in our in-person events, including our Digital Stratosphere Conference. Contact us today to learn more. We can tailor a marketing campaign that works for you. We look forward to helping more people learn more about and become engaged with your brand.
Welcome back to Live on the Scene here at Digital Stratosphere 2025 here in Denver, Colorado. I'm here with Marcus Harris, partner at Taft Law, and you're giving a presentation tomorrow, Marcus, to talk about how to navigate AI contracts. What are some of the high-level bullet points or themes that we can expect in that presentation tomorrow?
Yeah, well, thanks for talking to me, and thanks for inviting me to speak at the Stratosphere Conference. It's always a pleasure to be here. And, really what I want to focus on in my presentation tomorrow is just, how to approach artificial intelligence contracts. And I think, mitigating the risk associated with them, making a determination as to, do you really need artificial intelligence functionality? What level of due diligence do you need to go through in order to make that decision? What kind of a policy should you have in place for your employees regarding the usage of artificial intelligence in your organization? I mean, all of these, I think aren't really considered very much. I mean, it's, the fundamental threshold question that I ask every one of my clients when they come to me asking about artificial intelligence is, do you need it? I mean, in my view, we always used to talk about snake oil salesmen, and you talk about the sizzle, no steak, and AI is right there. I mean, is there a way for you to get equivalent functionality in your business without utilizing artificial intelligence, because there are, you know, minds everywhere. I mean, you look at this stuff, and everybody is pushing hard for it. It's the sexy new thing that everybody wants to have, and if you don't have it, you feel like you're falling behind technologically. You're falling behind your competitors. But that, in and of itself, I don't think is a reason to adopt artificial intelligence. I mean, fundamentally, you've got to have an understanding of what your business case is, what your business requirements are. You have to, just like adopting any piece of software, where are the functionality gaps between how that AI functionality works and the way that your business works. There's also risks that are incredibly specific to artificial intelligence. For example, what about the data that you're entering into that system? What's the ownership structure around that? Who owns the inputs? Who owns the outputs? Meaning, what comes out of that artificial intelligence functionality? What's the ownership structure like associated with that? And what is happening to it while it's in the model? And what's the vendor doing with that? And then that leads to contract negotiation strategy and contract negotiation points. Are you going to be well within your rights to ask that vendor to warrant that they've got good title, ownership, non-infringement with respect to that artificial functionality and the data that comes out of it? Maybe, maybe not. Are they going to step up to indemnify you if there's an infringement issue? I certainly hope so, but most of the risk is going to be put back to you or put back on you as the customer. And in a corporate environment, an enterprise resource environment, that's probably not appropriate.
Right. Now, are you seeing any fallout yet from? Because just to back up for a second, I know your background is intellectual property, which includes data. And are you seeing any breaches or litigation as a result of AI? Or are we still in the preemptive CYA mode, and you're just helping us protect from that sort of thing, or what? Or have you seen breaches of any sort?
That's a good question. And what we are certainly seeing are issues associated with the ownership of data, infringement issues, pure intellectual property issues, and that's all over the courts right now. And we're starting to get some sort of foundation for moving forward and some guardrails on how these things are going to be dealt with by the courts, and I think that's really good. But in my practice, in for my clients, what I'm concerned about is the misrepresentations associated with artificial intelligence, that it's going to solve all your problems, that there hasn't been enough vetting of the system, that there aren't unnecessary costs associated with utilizing the artificial intelligence functionality. For example, SAP, what we see is they are trying to put a fence around the data that you put into their system. And when you try to get that data out, your data, so it's not, let me take a step back, it's the issue with SAP isn't so much about, and AI vendors in general, it's not so much about who owns that data. They're going to acknowledge that you own it. But the reality is controlling it is much more important and much more lucrative than actually having an ownership interest in it.
Right.
Arguably. And so what SAP does is you want to take that data out of your SAP system and train an artificial intelligence product that's not an SAP product. Be prepared to spend a lot of money. So, I mean, these are the things that are coming to the forefront and I think are going to get litigated in the near future. What's the ownership structure of the data? What kind of confidentiality issues are associated with putting your information into that model? What data security risks are there? It's just going to be a minefield of opportunity for lawyers, and something that I think clients and customers need to be very aware of so they can mitigate the risks associated with using artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I mean, good news is job security for you, I imagine, for years to come.
Right.
Because I imagine this is going to take years, decades, or more to resolve all these unknown new kind of legal issues, won't it? I mean, it doesn't seem like that's something that's as cut and dry as if I steal something from you physically, it's a lot easier. It's more cut and dry. Whereas this is a little bit more of a gray area. It seems like
that's exactly right. It's not cut and dry. There's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of gray area associated with this, and I think that being an attorney in the technology space, that really is kind of par for the course. In that the technology moves at lightning speed, and what you're trying to do as an attorney is fit centuries old in some cases legal paradigms into this new model. How do I deal with restricting providing relief from mitigating risks associated with artificial intelligence, utilizing in what can be many times outdated laws, outdated statutes, and trying to get creative in the way that you apply the law to this modern set of facts. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of unknown right now, but it's very interesting academically, and our clients come to us, every week with questions and issues that are arising, from artificial intelligence, and they're usually novel issues that we have to go research, and there's not a clear path for it.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and it'll be interesting to see where things settle for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to your presentation. I appreciate you being there. Taft Law is actually a sponsor of this event, so thank you for being a sponsor and helping us put together this great community of people that are here to learn more about digital digital transformations, and appreciate having the legal advice too, because it's always good to have an attorney in your back pocket when you need it. And certainly reach out to Marcus on LinkedIn. What's the Taft website, or what's the best way to find you other than LinkedIn?
Taft Law, LinkedIn, Twitter. Just you put my name in there, and software ERP, I'm going to come up. So
Marcus Harris. Although isn't there a basketball player named Marcus Harris or something, or a professional athlete?
That's stealing my thunder a little bit.
Yeah, so, it's ruining your SEO rankings or whatever.
You can't really confuse him with me. He's much younger and much more fit. So.
Okay, so I'm here with Stan. Now, Stan, first of all, how do you really pronounce your name? Because I mispronounce it every time.
It's Stanislaw.
Stanislaw.
Yes, Stanislaw.
Okay.
Yes.
And tell us about your company.
So ANEGIS is a integrator of Microsoft technologies. So we come from deployment of Dynamics 365 F&O through CRM and any technologies that is in the Dynamics suite, up to Power Platform and AI.
Okay, great. So from your experience, then, I'm curious to get some of your thoughts here on leadership. So a lot of what these projects entail is leadership, cultural change, and it's more than just technology.
Correct.
So what is it? How can leaders inspire and lead cultural change in these sorts of projects?
No, I think it's very important to get to know your organization, meaning that what is the fear behind not going after the change. Right? At some point when I was moving further with my career, one of my mentors said, remember that you as a leader, your job is to take everybody with you.
Mm.
And this stayed with me, and I think this is the essence. Whatever you do, I mean, each and every project is a change. Sometimes small, sometimes big, sometimes enormous.
Right.
But eventually it's a change, and people are afraid of change.
Right.
And you have to get to the bottom of what's behind this fear, and attack that.
Right. So what can the leaders do, whether it's a CIO or any other executive within an organization? What can they be doing to drive that lasting change, that cultural change, to get people on board and aligned? What are some of the best practices you've seen work there?
I think one of the things that one can address is this change management practices.
Mm.
So inform, talk, listen, make Q&A sessions. This is where people ventilate. This is where they say what's happening in their heads and address that. Right. So this is one. Another thing is that when you want to have things that are long lasting, is that the change should be adhered to the company's culture, DNA, or values.
Right.
Because otherwise, if you go sideways, it won't lay down or adhere, right? So it will just go sideways, as I said, and eventually it will go back to the origin. So.
Right. What do you think the hardest part of these sorts of projects are? Is it change management, or is there anything else that you think are the biggest challenges that leaders face?
I did like 5 digital transformations. So from 2007, I think, different sorts of projects in telecoms, in retail, in global small organizations, and each and every time is how much you can influence people, or how much people can acquire change or acquire new technology. It's about technology adoption. It's about understanding the fears, as I said. So basically that's it.
Right. Now, when going through these sorts of projects, then how do you see your clients, or in your experience, how do organizations best handle innovation? Because a lot of times these projects can get so overwhelming that it becomes difficult just to automate what you already have. And so how do you see clients be successful in creating a really innovative culture, innovative processes, innovative technologies? How do you see that all coming together?
There are a few things that you can tackle in innovation, but one of the best strategies I've done in my career was, I will call it right now, organized innovation. So you have to have a funnel of innovative ideas coming in. You have to have funding that is secured, and eventually there has to be an ownership. I think this is the most important part, that whenever something comes in, you have to have an owner for these new ideas. But coming back to your question, where does automation stops and where innovation comes in, right? I think the best way is to democratize technology, right? Where people can just experience it or use it regardless of their position or technology acumen, if that makes sense.
Right.
So just use it, feel it, experiment, and then one of the models of promoting innovation is that people innovate, people experiment with the democratized IT, democratized technology. But then there are IT teams that make it scale it, make it enterprise-wide. They secure it, making sure that it's scalable, that it's giving eventually value to the company.
Right. So, in addition to you flying all the way from Poland to come to Denver to come to Digital Stratosphere, you've invited me to speak at your event coming up in Warsaw in Poland. Tell us a little bit about this event, and what should I and other people that might be interested in attending, what should we expect?
So we are thinking about an event some time ago that would bring people that are interested in not only digital transformation but also change management and everything that goes around in that space. That's why your name came in, because you are very strict in this statement that change management comes first, right? There were different ideas, and one of the ideas was that let's create an event that will bring people from the community that are interested in that. Not always so obvious, so not only technology people, so there will be people that come from the business side. There are people that founded their own companies, like yourself, but also not so obvious connections. The evening event will be with. It will be a surprise, I think, for everybody. It will be about the journey that we might have. We might have connections to the digital transformation, but it will be about something else. So 5th of November, Warsaw, an event about how to excel at digital transformation.
Right. So for our European audience, people that are Eastern Europe, Western, wherever in the world they are, but especially if they're in Eastern Europe or Poland, where can they learn more about this event? What's the website, or how can they find more?
It's stepsdigitalconference.com. I think.
Yeah.
We have to check that.
We'll include a link below as well.
So there will be a link. Everything is there. Should there be any questions, there are contacts to all people that is putting the conference up.
Against one is an art that's hard to teach. Another clever word sets off an unsuspecting herd, and as you step back in the line.
People oftentimes ask me how I built such a strong social media following on YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook and other outlets. And the fact of the matter is it took me a long time to build a following through a lot of trial and error, making a lot of mistakes. Had I known that there were companies out there that could help me build my brand, I would have done that a long time ago. I didn't know that, but the good news is that there is today a consulting firm that will help you through building your own personal brand through some of their training programs. The company is called Roloff Consulting, and if you're familiar with Emma Roloff, she's someone that I've had on this podcast before, and she's well known in the digital transformation space as well as the sales space, and she's big on TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And she and her husband have started a training course and a training company that focuses on helping people build their personal brands and helping them to sell themselves digitally. So whether you're a salesperson that's trying to reach more customers or you're an individual that's just trying to build your personal brand, that's something that they help with through their training programs. And they've offered listeners of this podcast a free 5-day LinkedIn challenge. And I encourage you to check it out. I've included a link below for this podcast. If you go to the podcast notes, you'll find a link that gets you free access to this 5-day challenge where you'll get step-by-step guidance. You'll get real results. So you'll get some tangible results from the program. And you also get a special offer at the end of it. So it's exclusive to listeners of this podcast. Be sure to check out the link below if you want to work on building your personal brand, or if you're in sales and you're trying to reach more people. Whatever the case may be, check it out. It's free to listeners of this podcast. You can check it out via the link below.
Are you looking for ways to promote your product or service to enterprise technology decision makers and influencers throughout the world, like the ones who listen to this podcast? Major Tom Productions creates media, events, and influencer marketing for B2B technology providers. Our productions are exciting, educational, disruptive, and effective. Most importantly, they create results. Our content is unlike any other in this industry, engaging, influential, and trusted by technology buyers and influencers throughout the world. Each month, our productions reach hundreds of thousands of targeted buyers and decision makers who trust and engage with our honest and tech-agnostic content. With long-tail viral results and engagement with our content, Major Tom Productions provides a way to reach your target market and create awareness, calls to action, and a connection with potential customers. So collaborate with us today. Learn how we can feature your product or service on podcasts such as Transformation Ground Control, Journey to S4HANA, and Journey to Dynamics 365. We can also feature your brand on our YouTube channel called Digital Transformation with Eric Kimberling, which boasts over 100,000 subscribers and over 2 million video views per year. You can also participate in our in-person events, including our Digital Stratosphere conference. Contact us today to learn more. We can tailor a marketing campaign that works for you. We look forward to helping more people learn more about and become engaged with your brand.
With 1,000 lies and a good disguise, hit 'em right between the eyes, hit 'em right between the eyes. We knew I'd go.
Hello, welcome back to Transformation Ground Control, episode number 237. This is the special on the scene edition here at Digital Stratosphere 2025 in Denver, Colorado. We're just outside the conference area here. We just got done talking to some of the keynote speakers that have spoken here today so far on day 2 at the conference. We're actually going to play you another clip here from another highlight of the day, which was a vendor panel discussion where we have several software vendors on stage, and I facilitate a conversation talking about some of the trends in the industry, keys to success, how they view themselves differently in the market, kind of what their strategies are. And it's a really interesting discussion because, again, even if these 5 vendors aren't solutions that you're necessarily interested in, it's a good way to understand how different software vendors and providers can differ from one another and some of the nuances and things you might consider as you evaluate these different options. So let's jump back into the conference. We'll play you this clip from the vendor panel discussion. We're going to talk about just some trends we're seeing and you are all seeing in the AI space. You've heard a lot of presentations where I don't know there's been a single one that has not mentioned AI many times. I tried not to mention AI intentionally, but yeah, I couldn't help myself, and I just lost count of how many times I mentioned it. I know a lot of you did too as well. So let's first do some quick introductions. We have a panel here. Some you may have met or remember from the previous sessions. Tanya Gonzalez from Infor. She was the first presentation of the day after the opening. Gil from Priority is here. So Gil, thank you for being here. Scott Bickley from Infotech Research Group. They put in my notes ITRG, and I keep saying IT Research Group, but it's Infotech Research Group. And Craig Sullivan from NetSuite. And then right next to me is Dan Hodek from Epicor. So Epicor, Infor, Priority, Infotech, and NetSuite. So lot. This is a really unique thing to see all these vendors here in the same room, same stage, So far, no one's killing each other. They seem like they're getting along okay, but let's see if we can change that.
We're probably all having the same problems.
I'm putting my money on Tanya. I think Tanya's going to win the arm wrestling match or whatever.
Yeah.
All right, so just to start, and I'll open it up. I'll call on one of you for each of these, and then let the rest of you chime in as I go through these questions here that I just lost on my. Here we go.
Interesting choice of chairs, by the way. It's like an endurance competition.
Yes, it's like the.
No, we at Priority were up for any challenge. It's the others I'm feel sorry about.
It's like an episode of Survivor, like a reality show. See who falls first. Let's talk about AI, and I'll start with you, Tanya, just because you presented on this earlier today. But to start, maybe talk a little bit about summarizing some of what you talked about this morning. But how is Infor building AI into its what are some of the most common use cases you're seeing so far of AI actually being used in the Infor Cloud Suite right now?
Yeah, that's a great question, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to kick it off. So at Infor, we actually have a combination of solutions. So on one side, we have embedded use cases that go directly into our cloud suite, so ERPs. And some of those most common use cases that we run across is product recommendations. I mean, let's just think about like a customer base, right? If you're on Amazon, right, and you look at your shopping cart, you have all those recommendations. This goes with this. Have you considered the other product? Similar case on our cloud suites and ERPs, right? So when they're going after our customers, in this case B2B space, and then the trained resources that need to learn from all those hundreds and thousands of SKUs, that comes in very handy. So that's some of the common use cases that we are seeing across some of our industries. Obviously, healthcare has its own specifics as well. This is where we see some of the things coming in. Oh, I need to forecast, make sure I have all those syringes in time, need to make sure I have inventory optimization. So that also comes in play as well. And then when we think about our use cases, it's really maturity curve. So what are the things that we could put in embedded because they don't require so much services engagement versus what are the use cases where you actually need a lot of hand-holding and we validate them. You can't build AI in a vacuum. You really need to make sure that you have go back to this data validated across the customers. And so when we think about AI, we really see an evolution of them, just starting off with the individual customer, actually validating that it works across a combination of customers, and then we put it into our embedded offerings. And still keep on going, keep on growing. Those use cases keep engaging.
Interesting. Gil, what are your thoughts?
So in terms of AI use cases, we think about it in three buckets or categories. One is the AI assistant, which is basically helping you to do your job. If it's searching in a more of a natural language kind of interaction, like Eldad showed earlier. It can be things like drafting an email. AI can draft it for you and change the tone. I think we saw some of that this morning as well. So that's more on the assistance level, and this already exists. It's out there. We saw it this morning. Then the next level is the AI advisor, which can actually, here the intelligence kicks in. It can notice some anomalies, see some stuff, tell you, hey, pay attention here, pay attention there. And the third level, by the way, the advisor piece is coming out like in the next version, so it's already here. The next level is the agentic. It's harnessing AI in order to do more sophisticated cross-process stuff for you, actually do your job in a way. And this is not yet here, but this is where we see the market is heading.
Interesting. How about you, Dan, with Epicor? How are you seeing AI being baked into the Epicor product line right now?
So we are embedding it across our product line. Our users tend to be pragmatic, so they're not asking like, give me AI, right? They're trying to solve a challenge. And so we're looking at it to go, okay, well, what are those quick win challenges that we can solve for them, right? We're not going to go shoot for the moon. So things like forecasting, inventory control, predictive analytics, those are the kind of use cases that our customers are asking for quickly. So we're implementing those types of things. Ironically, we have a knowledge agent, which it's like, hey, yeah, we need to put this out there for our customers. And it's been getting like great love and adoption. And we had a customer who actually is a very long-term customer. He said like it's having a second brain in ERP now, right? Because of the knowledge that we can now use with AI. So again, like the use cases that we see are the ones that customers can get value really quick, right? And we're looking to embed them, whether it's agentic AI, whether it's large language models. We're there to help our customers kind of the best value that they can get out of what we have today.
Right. And now, Craig, I want to ask you a little bit different spin on that same question, though. So with NetSuite being a native cloud SaaS solution and focusing on the mid-market, how are things different in the cloud environment and or with the mid-market as far as how you're seeing AI being used by NetSuite and its customers?
Yeah, it's an interesting. I was formulating my response to your first question.
And I decided to change the last minute. I did not tell you I was going to.
You switched it up, but you've helped me, I think, so thank you. Yeah, so I think, as from our perspective, we are cloud native. We were born in the cloud, if you will, 27 years ago, and so we've only ever thought about what it means to be running a business using cloud-based systems. Fast forward to being acquired by Oracle 2016, 2017. And not only then do we have access to the Oracle database, which we were always using from the very beginning, but all of the other infrastructure and the investments that Oracle has been making around scalable architecture and more recently the AI components. And so, from that perspective, we sort of see it as our customers having a leg up, if you will, into embracing not just the cloud, but now the cloud with AI on this very powerful unified data set, which is at the heart of the suite from the very beginning. And so, the way that we approach these conversations, and these are conversations, and I think, my colleagues up here will sort of agree with this, they're definitely evolving as our customers and our end users are hearing, seeing, learning about AI at events like this, and then asking the questions about how might that help me with various aspects of our business. Our approach to that is to just make the system work better because now it has the AI as part of the fabric of it built in to how we're solving those problems and how we're helping customers solve those problems, from things like recommendations and supply chain optimization through to authoring and making proposals as to how best to solve those solutions. So we're looking at it, and I think that's sort of the difference here is perhaps that we're looking at intrinsically from the ground up, from the infrastructure up, as a virtue of the journey that we've been on.
Right. Now, Scott, Infotech, much like Third Stage, is vendor neutral. I know you guys have customers that are using all these vendors and even some vendors that aren't in the room here today. From your perspective, not coming at it from a technology perspective, but just more from your end customers, how much of the AI demand is being driven by vendors versus what you think customers actually want?
Yeah, I'd say it's 90% plus being driven by vendors. So, I mean, if you look at the ecosystem, I look at it like a pyramid. At the top is like NVIDIA, Broadcom, some of your big chip suppliers. You look at NVIDIA's revenue, and maybe 5 to 7 customers comprise about 50% of their revenue, which has been astronomically, growing. Well, I should say it's growing exponentially. They have a vested interest in pushing these models out, their investments in these data centers and what they're building out, and their customers are, the vendors on this stage, along with dozens of others. The sheer scale of this investment has pulled everyone along with it. So, you don't have a choice if you're an application provider, but to be investing in AI and to find a way to build that into your product set. And if you're going to make those investments, you're now having to pay for access to those foundation models. You're now having to pay for data scientists, AI engineers, all of the infrastructure and people that go into building the products. So naturally, that's going to be a pull to the end user. And I think from the end user perspective, it's very tempting to kind of get caught up in the FOMO of the AI hype cycle, right? And so, 100%. But if you think about it, you have a choice of either going out and trying to directly build your own AI solutions, which a small minority of companies have the resources to do so on multiple levels. You could go out and try to do these tuck-in solutions. I think I read yesterday there's 498 AI unicorn startups right now, which is insane. The problem is 90% of those will be out of business within 5 years, and the rest will be acquired by many of the vendors on this stage, along with others. So really, if you're an end user consumer, you're going to be consuming AI from one of the vendors you're probably already buying from. So to me, you can slow down a little bit and take time to ensure that things in your contracts are addressing liability, addressing IP, addressing all of the things that are not currently being addressed for AI in your contracts with those vendors. Make sure you understand your use cases. Make sure you understand what it's going to take to prepare your data, all of the things to get ready to consume AI in a productive manner that can add, efficiency and hopefully revenues at some point to your business.
Yeah, that's interesting. Gil.
I feel to your question that customers look at AI a little bit like a sushi. They want it, but they wonder if it's not too raw.
Right.
And
they want to know what's in it. Like, what exactly is that I'm getting?
Right. So it's, I think it's our burden as vendors to show them coming back to your first question, to show them use cases that make sense. They happen to be powered by AI, but they don't really care, right? They see a feature that they like. When I go to demos and Eldad is showing them how he's doing the search with natural language, they really like it. Now the technology is the enabler, but they like what they see as a feature. So once we have the use cases that make sense, customers connect with them.
What about, Dan, on the implementation side of things, how is AI affecting implementations in general, the way that either the end customer or even your own people implement technology? And if so, what are some of those changes you're seeing?
Yes, I think the from that standpoint, right? One, if it's done right, implementation. We have tools that are actually helping our customers migrate, right, or from the cloud over or from on-prem into the cloud. So we are using AI in those tools to assess their legacy systems, determine kind of like what the best models are, and to easily migrate them over to those customizations over into our cloud aspect. So, that's one aspect of how we're using AI in our consulting services to help our customers migrate. I would say the implementation within customers, we embed AI into our systems, right? And we use natural language. We try and, as I had mentioned before, we have engineers that as we build our solutions, they're on the shop floors. They're learning how our customers use the system. So as they build it and our customers implement it, it's natural to them. Right? There isn't this, AI in essence should be almost like a hidden tool, right? Like you go in there, you use it, and it's an extension. I don't want to call it a co-pilot. I'll call it it's an assistant, right? That helps our customers actually do more without having to worry about and be a data analyst or really kind of be retrained in how to use the system. So I do believe AI is helping in that aspect of implementation because it's making it easier for our customers to adopt AI quicker.
Right. So. How about you, Tanya? In the Infor ecosystem, how are you seeing AI, or are you seeing AI impact how customers are implementing and or adopting ERP technology?
Absolutely. So I think one of the examples I'm going to use is that some of our ERP screens in the past, let's think about forecasting. You go in there, it's a nice chart, and then you have a drop-down of different models. This is a model you could try out, this is a model you could try out, and you just sit in there as an end user, and you pick all those models and try to find the best answer. What we are seeing with AI coming to the picture, it runs all of these things for you in parallel, and based on your data shape, picks the right thing to expose, so it's kind of less time that end users now have to spend looking through all of those different choices that they have that they're not necessarily sometimes equipped or have time to equip, like what is the best one to choose. But we already run those things for them so that it gives them the answer. And then, on the productivity side of things, I think you mentioned some nice examples. Instead of starting from like a blank page, you really have somewhere there going, oh, can I write down this, job description? That comes in handy, right? Can I modify those things? Can I translate things that are a lot faster? We serve customers across the globe, and that has really been transformational for us to really them coming in and saying, oh, I could send this exact same message to different languages to target to my customers. This is amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, we definitely see that come into place so that they spend less time picking the right tools or configurations, but actually focusing what is kind of the best outcomes that we could give to them. And they could move on and actually spend more time on other value-added tasks.
Right. How about in the priority space?
I'm thinking in the context of change management. We talked a lot about change management today. And once we have AI, even the AI assistant at this point, it makes change easier. There's less to learn. The system is much more forthcoming. I think it's part of a trend of consumerization, how to pronounce, but easy to understand of business systems. People want systems that they get, that nobody taught us how to use Facebook or WhatsApp or Candy Crush, right? We just went in and it was immediately clear what we need to do and how to set it up and how to make it work. So business environment is a bit more sophisticated than lining up suites, but still there's a lot of room for simplification, and I think that's what the market wants, and AI will definitely help us get there.
Yeah. And then the NetSuite space there, are you seeing AI impact how customers are using software, implementing the software?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's fascinating because of course we're all in the technology side of the house here, and so we're solving similar problems and sort of seeing lots of similar things. I think the one thing that we have seen is that with the rise of ChatGPT, if you will, people that come to us in the first instance and express an interest in what can NetSuite do, they're coming better informed. They've used these tools to help them understand what's out there in the landscape. You're doing more research before you pick up the phone or interact with your vendor or your potential vendor, which is great. It speeds up the conversation, allows us to get down to the specifics of where we can help. We're also doing things on the NetSuite side again. Perhaps one of the advantages of being cloud native. Helping customers understand what they're not using today and how they might benefit. It's true, I think, in pretty much every technology product that we use, me included. There are, for every feature that you are using, there's probably 5 or 6 that have been implemented that you didn't read the release notes or weren't paying attention to the marketing event, and so you don't know about it. How many people use the tap button on the back of their iPhones? I don't. So I don't know if anyone. It's a feature that you know about if you didn't know about.
I had no idea.
Is there a button?
You can tell it double tap on the back of the phone and it'll take a photo. You can tell it exactly what you want to do. It's true.
Thank God for you guys to educate us on technology.
And you thought
I wasn't expecting that to be everyone nods their heads. But actually seeing how they can take advantage of other aspects of our suite to help them, with a particular business challenge that they have, and how that, what the results of that might be, as in terms of what they're using today, and if they were to, in some cases, just start using this new model that they're already paying for that they haven't gotten around to implement yet. And then, it was mentioned earlier on today about natural language queries to help people understand how to set things up and how to navigate the product. All of these capabilities, we're all doing some flavor of, it sounds like, and seeing how our customers are responding to that. And so that's, the customers are benefiting from AI, whether they realize it or not, under the covers, because we're building better solutions for them with it, or actually in the front end because they're interacting with the system in that natural language way that makes it much faster for them to get the information that they need.
Right. So I want to shift gears a little bit, and I'm sure we'll come back to AI. We'll find a way back to AI, I'm sure. That's not going to be a problem, but I am going to shift gears. And I want to start with you, Scott, on this question. I want to tie this back to Jan Baan's presentation earlier today. He talked about composable ERP, microservices, and I'm paraphrasing here. He said it much more eloquently than I could, but he's essentially saying that he sees a future where ERP is shrinking a bit. It's not everything to everyone, and there's an opportunity now to use different types of technologies to not replace ERP, but to augment what ERP can do. And I want to get the vendor's opinion on this too. I feel like you have a right to rebut him or to share your thoughts on this. But I want to get your sort of vendor neutral perspective on what you thought of that presentation or that school of thought in general, and how you think it fits into where we're heading in the future with the ERP software space.
This seems to be one of those topics that it vacillates like a pendulum from one side to the other. It's all in one suite platform, or it's no platform. Everything's composable. Everything's bespoke. I don't think that there's a one right answer for that. Personally, I think most organizations would benefit from getting as much of their functionality fulfilled through a single vendor solution in an ideal world. Now, if you're taking a core platform and you're just bolting on 15 acquisitions that are poorly integrated, and you could cause more problems than you're solving. Whereas if you're a cloud native solution and you're building things organically, you probably have a much higher chance of making a more seamless and extensible platform in that regards. The problem I have with composable ERP is the complexity involved and the skill sets required to bring in-house to build and manage that and maintain it, right? Because those are highly, you're starting to talk about microservice-based architecture, then you better have some deep wallets to buy the right people to come in there and maintain those systems. And then you have the integration issues to worry about and everything on top of that, because everything's going to basically be bespoke. I think anything's possible in this technology world when it comes to ERP, but that seems to me to be, at least historically, a more complex solution to build and maintain than something more out of the box, I would say, for the broader swath of the end user population.
Especially a small mid-market company.
Yes,
they just don't have the big IT staff to support that. And
No.
I think it's a good reminder, too, that no matter what strategy you pursue or what direction you go with your ERP deployments, everything's a trade-off, right? It's like, okay, maybe let's just say the microservice path is a better route because it gives you more flexibility and a more competitive advantage, potentially, than you would just from a sole ERP system. But now you've increased your cost on the IT maintenance side. You're going to have to hire some people to maintain all that and that sort of thing. I'm going to come back to you guys for sure, because all three of you, the Priority, Infor, and Epicor, you've taken historically somewhat of a best of breed approach because you've got multiple systems that can solve different problems. So I'll come back to you in a second. But I want to start with you, Gil, with NetSuite, because I find it super fascinating what you guys are doing, because you guys have always been sort of the epitome of SaaS, cloud native, and providing a very standardized suite of products. But now you guys have these third-party apps that are being developed on the NetSuite platform, which is not new, but it's relatively new for you guys, and it runs counter to, not in a bad way, but just runs counter to how you guys started. How are you guys viewing this then? I mean, is this your way of allowing your pendulum to swing, to vacillate that direction, or how do you see this evolving?
It's a great question, and I'm going to say thanks for being my new best friend here on the panel this afternoon. We've always had that sort of single system, unified suite perspective as being the best way to run the business, because then you know where the data is, the system understands the data, you can generate deeper, richer insights from a system that understands the context and all of those things. And at the same time, and actually we did do this very early on, which is developed what we describe as the Suite Cloud platform, which is the extensible set of capabilities so that you can configure and customize and extend our suite in the first instance in whichever way you need to as a customer. So we make it low code, no code, became the terminology for this, right? So we have those various options, but an end user with the appropriate permissions can add fields to records, can add new records, can create hybrid reports, consolidating all of that data together to get the insights that they need for their respective business function. And that same technology then is used to do more extensive customization and, to your point, for partners that participate in what we call the Suite Cloud Developer Network. And they build Suite apps, and they do that, and they deploy that on our cloud infrastructure as extensions to the suite. And we've got 650 plus partners today, 700 and plus Suite apps as part of the Built for NetSuite offering that are doing everything from horizontal solutions, plugging in external tax engines and document signing capabilities, as well as very deep verticalized configurations and customizations, if you will, of the solution that are in essence managed by and maintained by the partner, but leveraging the NetSuite infrastructure so that there's that consistent availability, consistent experience, and common data set across the entirety of the business. So we feel that it's the best of both worlds in a way, because we're keeping all of the data together so it's easier to manage and easier to understand and audit and control, while at the same time providing that flexibility that we know every business needs. And then the last piece of that, just sorry, before everyone else jumps in, is that we also have our connector strategy, which allows connection to third-party systems, because we know that in a IT stack there is almost always more than one system.
Yeah.
Actually, there is always more than one system. It's not just NetSuite; it's a Microsoft product, for desktop or spreadsheets or whatever that may be. And then the more recent thing that we just did is announced our capabilities for AI connectivity with a new MCP server capability. So we're sort of stepping out into that world now, so that if you are using ChatGPT or Claude or your LLM of choice, you can now interact with your NetSuite data through that agentic connectivity toolset, so that you're again accessing with natural language, but still looking at that common data set in a combined, unified way.
Yeah. We're here live on the scene with a vendor panel discussion here at Digital Stratosphere 2025. We've got a lot more to discuss here as a vendor panel, and we'll be right back with more Transformation Ground Control.
How can you see into my eyes like open doors?
I'm excited to announce the release of our 2025 Digital Transformation Report. It's available now on the Third Stage Consulting website, www.thirdstage-consulting.com. This report gives you an unbiased, technology-agnostic insight to help you optimize your organization's projects for success. Get your copy today using the QR code in front of me or on our website.
I recently published my first book. It's called The Final Countdown, Strategies to Reach the Third Stage of Digital Transformation. And I wrote this book because I really wanted to find a concise way to share some of my knowledge around digital strategy and how to get started on a digital transformation journey. So in this book, I cover 3 different sections. I cover the people, process, and technology aspects of transformation, with the idea that it's meant to be a starting point, a launching pad for organizations and team members that are going through digital transformations. So I encourage you to buy this book. You can get it electronically, you can get it paperback, or you can get it in hard copy, as I'm holding here in front of you. You can get it by going to thefinalcountdown.com. You can also search for it on Amazon if you shop at Amazon. Otherwise, just go to thefinalcountdown.com. Love to hear your feedback on this book as well. So I hope you check it out and hope you enjoy. Hello, welcome back to Transformation Ground Control, episode number 237. We're here live on the scene at Digital Stratosphere 2025 in Denver, Colorado. And we're here playing a clip from today's session on the vendor panel, where we talk about some of the trends in the industry and how these different software providers are viewing the future of enterprise technology. With Infor, Jan also referred to this earlier today about how Infor has grown through acquisition, including his company, Baan, got acquired by Infor. You guys had, or you have M3, Sightline, now Cloud Suite. So you've historically had multiple solutions that you've maintained, but from a vendor perspective, I've got to think that's hard to maintain different systems with all the R&D getting spread thin, and you don't want to be competing against each other, with the same with different applications. Where do you see the pendulum going? Do you think the pendulum's going towards a single, like with Cloud Suite, a single solution, or do you think it's going to settle in the middle where you still might have multiple solutions for different industries or different use cases, or where do you see that going?
Yeah, we were kind of forced into it, as you were saying, because we have all of our cloud suites specialized by industry. So we had to build a platform that goes in the middle and connects so that we have a user experience as a login. They have not just their core cloud suite, but their additional applications that they're using that go hand in hand with the ERP system, that we have analytics that goes on top of it, that we have AI, and we have all of this consolidation happening in the data fabric space. So for us, it was we were forced by working across all of these different R&D teams to have the platform as this place that unites or connects pieces together. And the platform itself works as a combination of those different microservices, if you think about it. Yeah, the moment that we get all this data, it comes together, we could apply analytics on top of it, we could apply AI on top of it, we could use a combination of the different techniques, we could put it back into the cloud suite. And what we notice, what works well for us, is that thinking about our end users, so their roles, what they're really trying to accomplish in a day, so that they don't go through different screens. They have a workspace. They start their day, they log into the portal, and they have a workspace. And this workspace tells them, here's some of the alerts, here's the things that you need to focus on. And those are the pieces of different technologies, from process mining, from analytics, from AI, are coming in together into one single space to help them with their day-to-day challenges. So answering your question, I think the truth is always somewhere in the middle, and we were forced to do that just because we had all the different applications to start with.
Yeah, it seems like it's more than just applications now. It's almost like a platform, and that's sort of what you didn't use the word platform, I don't think, with NetSuite, but it sounds like that's essentially what you're doing. Is you've got this core platform with connectors and apps you can plug in, and then same with you guys. It's a platform where you can mix and match different.
It's a cloud industry cloud platform.
Yeah, yeah. Brilliant marketing. That's why you guys are in marketing. I'm not. How about you, Dan? What's Epcor's view on this?
What they said, no. It's similar, right? I mean, particularly when you're dealing with mid-market companies, right? They need to have the flexibility to transform and grow as they need. So having a composable type of infrastructure, right? Being able to, for instance, like inventory planning and, can I bolt that on, right? Do I have the right APIs to connect to that when I need it and grow is what our users need, right? So I would definitely say that there's your ERP system, your core ERP system sits at that core, but you do need to be able to have those applications that connect, whether it's to a third party, whether it's to your own apps. Someone even mentioned the community, right? Like building the community, start thinking about the supply chain. You need to be able to connect to the solutions, right, that your supply chain's using, and that will become even a bigger intelligent fabric, right, as you build it out. So I would definitely say it's a mixed breed that you do have to have a core set of solutions that kind of out of the box that you are able to run with that our customers can benefit from, but composability is kind of key, whether it's in the app or the agents that you roll out, right? We didn't want to mention AI, but he started it, so
everyone take a drink.
That's right. Yeah. So just being able to have that flexibility within your system to grow as needed. So yes, we definitely support kind of that view.
Right. Now, Gil, with Priority, you guys have had. First of all, you guys do a lot with distribution, retail, and some manufacturing as well. Other industries I know too. But how you approach this diversity of industries that you play in, and the different the different systems that you have. How have you guys navigated that?
So the approach we took is also a platform approach, where we basically give ourselves or our clients or our partners a set of tools like Play-Doh that you can configure, customize, integrate as you see fit. And this allowed us, as a vendor, as a software vendor, to also develop some vertical specific solutions that are using the same platform tools. So retail is a good example of that. With the same extension tools and integration and some systems that we acquired or partnered with from the ecosystem, we built a solution that caters for the needs of retailers. Partners of ours built solutions for other verticals, for real estate, for agriculture, for hospitality, and the list goes on and on and on. Again, all using the same tools, the same platform tools, which is the way to go. Otherwise, you could redevelop everything from scratch all the time. Openness, I think, is key. To the point Scott made earlier about, a smaller organization cannot afford probably to have a composable ERP and now connect it with 200 systems around it. True, very much true. But we need to remember that a small organization can be a big organization tomorrow. And we don't want to pose on them decisions, okay, now you have to redo the whole thing from scratch. We want systems that can grow with the businesses, enable their growth, support their growth, and cater for their needs as they grow.
Right, right. Now, Scott, coming back to you and shifting gears again, if we talk about implementation, we've talked a lot about in this session or in these workshops so far, we've talked quite a bit about what some of the success factors are. We've talked about change management, strategy, all kinds of different stuff. How would you summarize what you think is most important for your customers to be successful in their transformations, their ERP implementations in general?
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake we see, I mean, and I don't think it's any secret to anyone at this event, is just the lack of upfront preparation for the implementation, right? So, a lot of over-reliance on the vendor to steer them to a system integrator, over-reliance on the system integrator to give them a statement of work that is going to be, fulsome and really cover off in enough detail all the different components of the implementation. More, and I think the paper is getting worse. I mean, you know, I literally see screenshots of resource allocation estimates for SOWs that are illegible. You can't even read them. And then you say, well, did you go through a phase 0 process? Have you gone through this advanced planning? How did you help inform the implementer to come up with these numbers? And there's nothing there, right? So that means these numbers have just been based on some semblance of historical projects that the vendor's probably done, and then a lot of guesswork. But it's a recipe for change order hell. And so I think, you know, the other component to the upfront planning is really the planning internally for the organization. I mean, you touched on it. It's program management. It's having an executive sponsor that understands your business and understands enough about technology to be an effective advocate for the project, the ability to prepare the organization for what's coming. You know, I can't tell you how many times I ask, how are you going to staff this project? You know, you're going to have to pull your best people out of the business to run the project. You're still going to have to run the business, and they don't have an answer. You know, data is a huge issue. You can almost guarantee that if they haven't done any upfront work, you're going to run into that. You start working on the data migration, the data integration, and you're going to hit a roadblock. And as we know, then you have to keep the meter running on the consultants, or you're going to lose the resources while you take whatever 6 weeks, 6 months, however long to fix the data. That's how these projects just start to grow exponentially. And I mean, that's just off the top of my head. I mean, there's so many ways these projects can go wrong. I think if you're not taking upfront, you know, in many cases, at least 6 months to plan what you're going to do for the project, you're kind of just preparing, or you're defaulting into failure mode.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I had a psychology, not a psychologist, but someone who had studied psychology that was on my podcast one time, and she talked about how in human behavior, there's something called action bias, and people feel like they have to take action. And if I'm doing my phase 0 planning, I'm not taking action. Like, these guys want me to sign a contract, and they want to start designing and building the software that I can see and touch and feel, but the planning, I can't. I don't feel like I'm taking action. And why take those 6 months if I can spend that 6 months designing and building stuff instead?
It's counterintuitive. It's like you have to go slow to go fast. So, you know, I used to play a lot of tournament poker, and it's like, you know, if someone's showing strength at the table, you know, there's a good chance they're probably bluffing, right? They want me to buy into that, you know, oh, I'm scared of this hand. It's very counterintuitive, and it's a hard sell to executive management a lot of time to say, look, you know, if we don't take the time to do these things the right way, it's going to cost us, you know, downstream in both implementation time and definitely in money. But I think in order to make that sale upstream, you have to be able to articulate what that looks like, right? So you have to be able to explain the why behind, you know, what you're asking for. It's going to help to get help early. So, you know, firms like yours and others that can come in and kind of, you know, help you map out that process and map out your pitch upstream. That's a critical piece of the puzzle, because most of the time, you know, people are running the business. How many times, hopefully, do you do one of these big ERP implementations? You know, maybe, you know, if you're lucky, once in your career. You know, if you're unlucky, you know, 2 or 3 times for the average worker. Like, there's obviously you guys who love it and live it, and that's what you do. But most people hate it. And it's very disruptive, and it's painful. And it's like, if I have my job, all of these things are laid out, and now you're telling me everything's going to change. You know, that's not going to make me a happy camper as, you know, as a worker. And you have to prepare for that up front.
Yeah.
I think, if I may, those are really great points. And you said some things earlier in your session, the Welcome to the Jungle session, that really caught my eye, Eric. The why is really important. You know, you're not implementing a new ERP system because you want to implement a new ERP system. You're doing it because you've seen something that's not going well enough, or something that's getting in your way with what you want to achieve for the business. And so you're identifying a new system, and you're going to go through this journey, let's say, through this journey to get to an outcome which allows you to achieve that why, that, you know, that intent that you started this process for. And so it is really important to have your best people. It is, you know, got to make sure that you've got the time for that. And then the other thing that I saw on your slides earlier on is that implementing new software is not itself going to fix the problems that you embrace in this process. Look for. But the reality is that whatever your business process is today, it is almost, at least to some degree, the result of how your current systems work. It's not because that's how you would have decided to do it if you had, a blank slate at the beginning of whatever evolution or new initiative you had. Most recently, it's because that's how your current setup actually requires you to do this thing. And so thinking that taking that and putting it, in our case, in the cloud, on the suite, leveraging AI in another system in exactly the same way as you're currently doing it is not going to help you achieve that why. So holding on to why you're doing this, it's not just because you want to have implemented a new ERP system on your resume. It's because there's a goal that you're looking to achieve for the business.
Right.
And driving to that at all points along the way.
I want to call it what Scott also, I think, mentioned just about preparing for the change, right? So you mentioned the processes, right? A lot of this isn't just the technology, right? You need, we're dealing with tariffs, we're dealing with economic issues, right? Change is a normal now. And I think, to your point, you're not going to rip and replace your ERP system out every time it changes, right? But you need to prepare your people, your culture, your processes, your governance to adapt to that change. We know it's going to happen. It's coming. So, have those kind of pieces in place besides the technology. I think that's going to better prepare you, right, as you implement kind of your initial solution.
Yeah.
So
now, Gil, let me ask a follow-up to that. So Scott's saying that I should spend up to 6 months preparing and getting ready, defining the why, all the stuff these guys have talked about so far. But you've got a guy working for you, let's say, that's going to get a pretty decent commission check if he can get that contract signed today, not 6 months from now. What do you do? What do I do?
So first, to relate to the previous point, it reminded me the story that they ask, how did God create the world in just 6 days? I mean, the skies and the seas and the mountains and the animals and the plants, all that in 6 days? It's easy. He didn't have any legacy.
Nothing to change.
Unfortunately, in our environment, we don't really get to do greenfields, right? We always have legacy. And that legacy, someone needs to understand, know very well, and then come and lead the change. And I sometimes see companies hiring people from the outside to lead the project. That's not going to work. You have to have somebody from the inside that knows the legacy, knows the current state, understands the why behind the current state, not just the why we're changing, and has the respect of the organization. So when he comes in to promote the change, it will resonate with the team. So I think that's, we talked a lot about leadership and the change management. It's the kind of leader that you choose that I see as the common denominator between successful and failing projects. Right. How do I hold my horses that want to sign the contract?
Yeah, and it may not, I fully acknowledge that may not be a fair question, but I think it's worth calling it out to the audience here that there is a conflict here.
And these are situations that we cope with every day. One way, and we do this sometimes with customers, especially in the more, let's say, complex or larger projects, we do scoping. We don't yet run to implementation. We don't yet run to, okay, sign this contract and the 100 licenses or whatever. We say we are now focusing on scoping. We'll bring you the people that we know how to ask the questions and what questions to ask. We'll work with you to map everything that is going on and what needs to change. And later on, we'll talk about solutions and licenses and all this good stuff. We have enough patience to go through this process and take our customers with us through this process, and then follow with a larger scale.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point. I think that's a good process to go through, and I think, to be fair, none of you guys are direct salespeople that are making commission on closing deals, and if anyone here signs a contract, you're probably not getting a big commission check just off that. But human behavior being what it is, I don't care who the vendor is, the bigger company you are and the bigger your deal is for that vendor, the more likely you're going to get weird behavior. You're going to get a guy who can literally make his entire year on your deal. It's either that or he might get fired. So you're going to, and I'm serious, they might get fired if they don't close that one deal. So you get this erratic, weird behavior that is not in your best interest. But at the same time, it's I get why they're doing what they're doing, but you as a decision maker in your company have to look past that and say, okay, I feel bad for the guy if he gets fired, but it's not right for us. We have to do what's right for us as a business because I don't want to get fired. So, I think that's the way to look at that and just to navigate some of the conflicts of interest that are inherent in the system. There's no, again, this isn't a vendor thing. This is a industry human behavior thing. But what are your thoughts, Tanya, just on implementation success? Like what are the keys to success that you see most helpful for your customers?
Yeah, and I'll probably second on what Scott was saying. I think what we notice sometimes in some of those implementations is like very IT-centric, and IT comes in and they run the show, but they forget the business on the loop, and business gets involved when it's already all in the works. Whereas the reality of the things, what works is that you engage the business from early on, like you're saying, taking them out from some of those critical processes so they're involved and they're bought into it. And then they're the ones who will be trained, right, and the rest of the organization, so they come and bring this change. So for us, what really worked is making sure that we have not just the IT, but the business in the loop from the very beginning. And then, of course, data. Yeah. Talking a lot about data. How do we bring it all together, making sure that this data is exactly kind of meeting use cases that you're trying to address. And I think just a little bit about the time-wise, right? It's not going to happen overnight. So what can we do now to start bringing in value? And so if you start flowing this data and putting it in some sort of data lake, wherever you're going to put it, you could start applying AI on this right now. You don't have to have all of your ERP screens up and running. You could actually start providing value to them before that. And so I think that's how we help to mitigate for some of the things. So don't think about it being years away, but the moment that we start flowing this data, you could start getting the benefit now, in 90, in 60 days, but whatever, starting with those quick wins.
Yeah, makes total sense. Let's look to the future, and Gil, I'm going to start with you just because I asked you the most difficult question. I'll start with the easier open-ended one to kind of close out the discussion here. But when you think ahead to, say, 5 years from now in the enterprise technology space, what do you see happening? What do you think? What are the things that you see on the horizon, whether it was related to AI or composable ERP or some trend we don't even know about yet? Like, what do you see?
How about I don't know?
That's the reality. None of us do. But what's your guess?
I think nowadays the pace of change in technology and the pace that technology evolves is by far faster than what business can do and what us as software vendors can adapt. So we are chasing the technology, right? We spend our days scratching our head thinking, how can we harness this wonderful technology that is out there into something practical, something that people can use in their day-to-day? And I think we are just scratching the surface now. And as we do that, technology continues to evolve very fast. So I think the most honest answer would probably be, I have no idea, I really don't.
That's a good answer.
I think it's a fast-moving thing. I'm sure that we'll see by far more AI playing a much bigger role in the business applications. I know the famous quote that there will not be business applications anymore. I guess you all heard that, right, from the CEO of Microsoft, that this was his vision. There's no business applications, it will be only data and agents flying out there and doing your work. So I don't know that we'll get there in 5 years, maybe 50, but I think this is the direction. This is the North Star that we're heading towards.
Yeah. Now, do you like to bet, Dan?
Do I like to bet?
Are you better? I'm just
not in general, just on this one.
Just in general. I'm like, if you were to put money down on a trend or a change in the market, what would it be?
Flying cars.
Yeah.
No.
Back to the
Still
future.
waiting for that. Yeah. I would say zero time to value, honestly, with ERP. So if you start looking at where AI is going and you start training your models very much more industry specific, as a lot of us are, right? And you start training it on role specific. When your customer ends up getting your initial, ERP, right? It should be ready out of the box to implement and start driving value. So what we call is like zero time to value, right? ERP used to be kind of measured on how fast you could implement, right? And how fast you could actually kind of get in there and do stuff. And I think the eventual, measurement KPI is going to be kind of like, zero time to, outcome, right? So how fast can you start getting the outcome and the value out of your ERP? And I see AI and the agents that we're rolling out are going to drive that, right? So you're going to get to a point where ERP is, it's I don't want to say it's easy to implement, but it's out of the box, go. Like, you're ready to go and run, so.
Yeah, hopefully more adaptable.
Yes,
flexible as well.
exactly, yes.
Yeah. How about you, Tanya? Where do you see ERP in general and or just within the Infor world? Where do you see ERP headed in the future?
Well, we invest in a lot of time and effort into agents, so it's better be good. So I want them to come to life in 5 years and definitely help us in this day-to-day tasks. Have the orchestrators that could do simple actions for us with a human in the loop, but human, instead of doing this mundane, redundant tasks, actually doing a lot more value-adding activities. It's, to me, it's almost like Maslow's self-actualization. You come to work and you're happy to be here. You actually accomplish something and not just look through the list of the spreadsheets or the columns that you have in your ERP. So we're betting a lot on agents, and I hope that in 5 years, they better be good.
You hope we're there, yeah.
Yeah.
So that maybe it's not 50 years out. Yeah, maybe it's a lot
Oh,
sooner
yeah.
than. How about you, Scott? Where do you see the world of enterprise tech headed?
Probably not a lot different than what it is today. Don't think you're going to see.
That's a boring answer.
Well, you know what?
Green.
I'm by far not an AI naysayer, but I would definitely characterize myself as an AI realist.
Yeah.
You're not going to see artificial general intelligence. I really don't like the terms we apply to a lot of AI, like reasoning models and chain of thought. And guess what? It doesn't think. It's not reasoning. It's not a human. Go ask ChatGPT 10 questions, and there's a good chance you're going to get some wrong answers to at least a couple of those 10 questions. And this is like the most basic use case you can apply.
Or ask it again, and you'll get different answers.
You'll definitely get a different answer, especially if you rephrase the question just ever so slightly. You're not going to see autonomous multi-agent workflows that decide on behalf of your business for critical business decisions. I don't see that in the next 5 years at all. I do see a refined version of what we have today. I think you're going to see models that are more fine-tuned, that you can put guardrails against to defend against some of the bias and some of the hallucinations. Another word I don't really like, but hallucinations. That you can also have it more targeted in its training on your industry data and your specific company data. And you can definitely go into what I would consider hyper automation for a lot of level 1 workflows and take a lot of the work that's done by people today and definitely automate that and definitely raise that up where the human in the loop is able to oversee a much broader scope of work than what you can do today in a more manual basis. So I think it's definitely going to be a transformative force from a productivity and an efficiency standpoint. Can be for revenue generation as well, depending on how it's targeted with marketing and sales enablement and things like that. But it's, I hear people say it's going to be bigger than the internet, and I'm like, I don't see that being the case in the near future. I'm not a technologist by trade. I'm not a futurist. I can't say what's going to happen 20 years from now, but it's pretty safe to think 5 years from now, it's a more refined, elegant version of what we have today.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point that you have to be careful of these grand predictions. I don't know, for those of you that were in Emma Roloff's session, she pulled up a quote from Constellation Research where they said, if you're not investing in AI right now, you won't exist in 5 years. Right. And I'm like, okay, come on, that is not true. I could be operating a pen and paper and still be in business in 5 years. I mean, that's probably not advisable, but it could happen. So anyway, it's stuff like that. I think it's fun to look to the future, but I think you guys which one of you said, Gil, you said you don't know. I don't know either. I like to pretend I do. I like to guess what I think will happen, but the reality is none of us really know. But it is interesting to see like what you guys are doing to advance technology and advance where we're going. How about you, Craig? Don't want to forget about you. Where do you see the world headed with ERP?
I kind of agree with everyone. That's sort of I think there's truth sort of in the midst of all of those, or at least a solid prediction that we could kind of come together. It's going to get better. Technology is going to get better. It's going to be better at giving us answers that are helpful. It's going to be making sure that we can do our jobs more effectively. As long as there's still a human signing off on the financial statements, though, there's going to want to be that rigor, and there's going to need to be that engagement and full auditability and an understanding of what decisions have been made. So I think we'll see this continued journey of automating sort of repetitive manual tasks, while at the same time still providing that overview that the human that's in charge can make sure that things are going in the right way. I mean, the reality is that the challenges that the businesses have are not themselves changing. So these solutions are all about continuing to do a better job at making the end user, the customer's life better and easier at achieving those goals. So in some ways, all of you actually have a big say in where this technology will go. The one thing I do see happening right now, and again, it's changing so quickly, but the idea of data being critical, the best AI is based upon the best data and the best data to the most complete data set. And what we're seeing with these front-end tools that are in essence are allowing very rapid generation of experiences that consumerize what would previously have been, or still are today, very complex, sort of technical workflows inside businesses. And so whether that be natural language or very simplified forms that you access on your phone from a remote location, or something that's specific to that use case, that's already happening. So I think that we'll see even more of that powered by the kinds of tools that we're seeing from Anthropic and Perplexity and other front-end AI solutions.
One thing that you said, Scott, that I want to come back to that I hope happens is that we get rid of buzzwords. So you were talking about some of the nomenclature that's used in the industry. It's getting pretty irritating now with all the different buzzwords. Even just for AI, you've got 50 different buzzwords used there. But no, it's good. Well, that was the vendor panel discussion. Very enlightening. I really enjoy those conversations. I enjoy facilitating them because it's such a unique perspective that you get when you get all those different vendors on the same stage talking about the similarities and differences between the way they view the enterprise tech space in the future. So really interesting stuff, and hope you found that as helpful as I did. And there's so much more I could share with you here in this episode. There's so many different speakers and sessions that I want to share with you, and we will make all of those speaker sessions available for purchase. If you want to view the on-demand recordings of the conference, we'll make those available to you soon. But hopefully this is giving you a flavor of what we covered here at this tech agnostic event or movement, as it's been tagged by the audience here. So I hope you found this helpful, and we'll be back with our regular format next week. So be sure to check us out at transformationgroundcontrol.com for all the past episodes you might have missed. Keep an eye out for our social media, my social media, but also Third Stage's social media for when we announce not only the next Stratosphere for 2026, but also where and how you can buy the recordings from the sessions this month or this year that you may have missed. So I'm looking forward to the rest of this conference. I'll share more with you on future episodes, but in the meantime, hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next week on the next episode of Transformation Ground Control. Take care.